The lecture hall smelled like burnt ozone and regret. Typical. Commander Vresh stood at the podium, all four of his arms crossed in that way that screamed, "I am about to ruin your day," and let me tell you, he was excellent at his job. The amphitheater seated about 200 cadets, and every single one of us knew we were in for a treat. Not the good kind. The kind where you question your life choices and wonder if maybe, just maybe, your parents were right about joining the Galactic Defense Initiative. I am Cadet Reiner, by the way, third row, slightly to the left. The one with the purple scales and the attitude problem, according to my last performance review. But I prefer to think of myself as charmingly skeptical. Today, Vresh began, his voice carrying that delightful mix of authority and barely contained sadistic glee. We will discuss the most dangerous military training environments in known space. Oh good, my favorite topic. Right up there with creative uses of explosive decompression and why your species probably should not have left their home planet. Vresh tapped a control pad, and the holographic display flickered to life behind him. A rotating list of planets materialized, each one more terrifying than the last. Krell Prime, with its acid rain and carnivorous plants. Thermox 7, where the daytime temperature could melt your exoskeleton. Void Station Gamma, which was not technically a planet but still managed to kill approximately 40% of all trainees who set foot there. These locations. Vresh continued, gesturing with two of his arms while the other two remained firmly crossed, represent the pinnacle of hostile environment training. The cadets who survive these crucibles emerge as elite soldiers, capable of operating in conditions that would obliterate lesser beings. A Vrex cadet 2 rows behind me chittered nervously. I could not blame them. I had heard stories about Krell Prime. None of them ended well. However, and here Vresh paused for dramatic effect, because apparently even military commanders enjoyed good theater, there exists one planet so utterly, catastrophically lethal that no cadet, regardless of species or preparation, has ever been approved for training there. The entire lecture hall went silent. Even the usual background noise of breathing, clicking, and various biological functions ceased. We all leaned forward. Well, those of us with spines capable of leaning anyway. The holographic display shifted, and a new planet appeared. Blue and green, swirled with white clouds, looking deceptively peaceful. Almost inviting, if you were the kind of idiot who judged danger by appearance. Earth, Resh said, and I swear his mandibles curved into something resembling a smile. Classification, Death World. Habitability Index, catastrophic. Survival rating for off-world species, approximately 0.03%. A collective gasp rippled through the lecture hall. Someone in the back row dropped their data pad. It clattered on the floor, the sound absurdly loud in the stunned silence. "Impossible," muttered Kelith, the Thoran cadet sitting next to me. His rocky hide was already shifting to a nervous gray color. "Nothing can be that deadly." Resh heard him. Of course he did. The commander had hearing organs that could probably detect a pin dropping in another solar system. "Cadet Kelith," Resh called out, and Kelith immediately stiffened. "Would you care to elaborate on your expertise regarding Death World classifications?" "No, sir," Kelith said quickly. "Excellent. Then perhaps you will shut your feeding orifice and listen." I tried not to laugh. Failed, but kept it to a quiet snort. Resh began his lecture in earnest, and I have to admit, despite my general disdain for authority and structured learning, I was riveted. Earth, he explained, possesses a gravitational force of 9.8 meters per second squared. For context, that is nearly double the galactic standard. Simply standing on the surface would crush most species' skeletal structures within hours. The display showed a graph comparing gravity levels. Earth's bar extended way past what was considered survivable. The atmospheric composition includes 21% oxygen, Vresh continued. 21%. For those of you who skipped basic chemistry, oxygen is highly reactive, corrosive even. Most species would experience cellular degradation within days of exposure. A Zeeb cadet raised a tentacle. "Sir, surely the native life forms have adapted somehow?" Indeed they have, Cadet Voros. And that brings us to the truly horrifying part. Vresh tapped another control, and images began flooding the display. Earth is home to approximately 8.7 million distinct species, and nearly all of them are actively trying to kill you. The first image showed a creature with enormous teeth and powerful limbs. The terrestrial predator known as a tiger, capable of achieving speeds of 65 kilometers per hour and possessing enough bite force to crush most species' skulls like overripe fruit. Next image, something long and scaled. The reticulated python. Constriction predator. Swallows prey whole. Next image, box jellyfish. Neurotoxin delivery system with enough venom to stop cardiac function in under 5 minutes. The images kept coming. Bears, crocodiles, sharks, poisonous frogs, venomous snakes, things with too many legs, things with no legs but plenty of teeth. Each one more nightmare-inducing than the last. And these, Resh said with obvious relish, are merely the large, obvious threats. Earth also boasts countless microscopic organisms capable of causing catastrophic illness. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi. The list is extensive and depressing. I glanced around the lecture hall. Every cadet looked appropriately horrified. Some had gone pale. Others had changed color entirely. One glibber in the front row appeared to be quietly having an existential crisis. But surely, another cadet ventured, the native sapient species has technology to mitigate these threats. Vresh laughed. Actually laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Ah, yes, the humans. Let us discuss Earth's dominant species, shall we? New images appeared. Bipedal creatures, relatively small compared to the galaxy's average sapient species, with only 2 eyes and no natural armor or weapons to speak of. You humans, Resh said, evolved on this nightmare planet. They are pursuit predators with remarkable endurance, capable of running for hours without rest. Their bodies regulate temperature through a process called sweating, which also means they can operate in thermal ranges that would kill most of us. They possess binocular vision optimized for tracking prey, omnivorous dentition allowing them to consume nearly anything organic, and a skeletal structure specifically adapted to their planet's crushing gravity. He paused, letting that sink in. In short, humans are Earth's way of saying that if the planet itself does not kill you, the locals will. Have there been any contact incidents? Someone asked. Several, Vresh confirmed. Early diplomatic missions required extensive protective equipment and medical support. Even with precautions, the survival rate was not encouraging. Humans find this amusing, incidentally. They consider their planet pleasant and comfortable, and that got a nervous laugh from the assembled cadets. This is why, Resh concluded, Earth has been permanently classified as off-limits for any military training operations. The Risk Assessment Board determined that attempting to train cadets there would be tantamount to mass execution. No cadet, from any species, under any circumstances, will ever be approved for Earth deployment during their academy tenure. He looked satisfied with himself, probably enjoyed watching us squirm. Questions? A dozen hands, tentacles, and appendages shot up. Resh pointed to a Merkian in the 4th row. Sir, if humans evolved on such a hostile world, does that make them dangerous? Vresh considered this. Humans currently serve in the Galactic Defense Initiative at lower ranks. They are competent soldiers, effective even. However, they are also. He paused, searching for the word odd. Their psychology is shaped by their environment. They find humor in things that would traumatize other species. They form emotional attachments to predatory animals. They engage in recreational activities that simulate mortal danger. In summary, they are functional but deeply strange. More questions followed. How did humans survive their own planet? Why had they not left Earth en masse? Were there really creatures called hippopotamuses, and were they truly responsible for more human deaths annually than any other large land animal? Vresh answered each question with increasing exasperation. Meanwhile, I was taking notes, because despite my reputation, I actually cared about passing this class. After about 20 minutes of questions, Resh held up all 4 arms for silence. Enough. You will have adequate time to study Earth's documentation on your own, assuming any of you possess the morbid curiosity required. For now, we will move on to more practical training scenarios, the ones you might actually survive. He tapped his control pad, and the holographic display shifted to show Thermox 7 again. Next week, half of you will deploy to Thermox for desert survival training. The other half will go to Krell Prime for jungle operations. I expect a 15% casualty rate, which is acceptable by Academy standards. Try not to die in embarrassing ways. Dismissed. The lecture hall erupted into noise as 200 cadets began gathering their belongings and filing toward the exits. Kelleth turned to me, his hide still that worried gray color. "Can you imagine actually going to Earth?" he said. "I would rather face a Krell acid storm." "At least on Earth you would die quickly," I replied. "Probably eaten by something with excellent evolutionary design." "You have a disturbing sense of humor, Reiner." "Thank you. I work hard at it." We joined the flow of cadets heading out. The corridor outside was packed, everyone talking excitedly about the lecture. Apparently, imminent death and creatures that could eat you made for excellent conversation topics. I was halfway to the dormitory wing when I realized I had left my data pad in the lecture hall. Typical. My organizational skills were approximately as good as my attitude, cursing in 3 languages, because why limit yourself to 1 when you know 3? I turned around and headed back. The lecture hall was emptier now, just a few stragglers still collecting their things. I found my data pad under my seat, naturally, because the universe enjoyed making me bend over and search for things. As I straightened up, I noticed someone was still sitting in the front row. Just sitting there, alone, staring at the now blank holographic display. Curiosity got the better of me. I walked down the amphitheater steps, my claws clicking on the metal flooring. "Hey," I called out, "lecture is over. You okay?" "Wah." The figure turned, and I got my first good look at them. Small, bipedal. 2 arms, 2 legs, smooth skin instead of scales or hide, hair on top of the head, brown and short. 2 forward-facing eyes with white showing around blue irises, wearing the standard gray cadet uniform, same as everyone else. My brain, bless its occasionally functional processes, took approximately 0.5 seconds to make the connection. "You are a human," I said. Not my most intelligent observation, but I was processing. "Yep," the human said. "Male, judging by the vocal patterns and facial structure." He smiled, showing flat teeth with slightly pronounced canines. "Name is Marcus. Marcus Webb. And you are?" "Reiner," I managed. "I am Reiner." "Nice to meet you, Reiner." He stood up, and I noticed he moved with an easy grace that suggested either excellent training or natural athleticism. Probably both. "Sorry, did not mean to startle you." "You did not startle me," I lied. "I am simply surprised." "Commander Vresh just spent 40 minutes explaining how your planet is a hellscape that would kill everyone in this academy." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was warm and genuine and somehow made the whole situation more surreal. "Yeah, I caught that lecture. Pretty entertaining, honestly. Though he did exaggerate some parts." "Which parts?" "Well, for starters, tigers are not actually everywhere. You have to go to specific regions. Same with most of the dangerous animals he mentioned. And the whole thing about Earth being too dangerous for training?" He shrugged. "I mean, it is challenging, sure, but calling it unsurvivable is a bit much." I stared at him. This creature, this being from the planet that had just been described as the galaxy's most efficient murder machine, was casually dismissing the entire lecture as exaggerated. "You sat through that entire presentation," I said slowly, "listening to Commander Vresh describe your homeworld as a nightmarish death trap. And you said nothing." "What was I supposed to say?" Marcus replied, still smiling. Hi, sorry to interrupt, but actually Earth is lovely this time of year. You should visit? He had a point. How long have you been at the academy? I asked. 3 months. Got here at the start of this term. And nobody knew you were human? Oh, people knew. The administration knows. The medical staff knows. But I guess word did not spread much. I mean, there are only about 50 humans in the entire Galactic Defense Initiative, and most of us are scattered across different postings. I am the only one currently at the academy. My mind was racing. A human. Here. Training alongside species that, according to Commander Vresh, would die horrible deaths if they ever visited his planet. Okay, I said, trying to organize my thoughts. Okay, so you are from Earth, the Death World. And you are here at the academy, training to be a soldier? That about sums it up, yeah? And you passed the entrance requirements? The physical tests? The survival scenarios? Marcus looked amused. Passed them. Reiner, I got top marks on the physical assessments. The survival scenarios were, well, easier than summer camp back home. Summer camp. He compared military survival training to summer camp. What, I asked carefully, is summer camp? Oh, it is this thing where kids go out into the wilderness for a few weeks. Build fires, hike, swim in lakes, learn basic survival skills. Pretty standard childhood experience on Earth. I needed to sit down. I actually needed to sit down. I walked to the nearest seat and collapsed into it. You send your children, I said, into the wilderness. On Earth. The planet with tigers and venomous everything and crushing gravity. For fun. Well, yeah. Builds character. Right. Of course. Marcus walked over and sat down next to me. Up close, I could see more details. Muscle definition visible even through the uniform, suggesting significant strength. Scars on his hands, small but numerous. Calluses on his palms. This was someone who had worked, trained, fought. Listen, he said, and his tone shifted to something more serious. I get that Earth sounds scary to other species. And yeah, it is dangerous if you are not adapted to it. But for humans, it is home. We grew up there. We evolved there. What seems lethal to you is just Tuesday for us. Commander Vresh said no cadet could survive Earth training, I pointed out. No cadet, Marcus replied with a grin that was probably supposed to be reassuring but came off as slightly predatory, except the ones who are already from there. Fair point. Disturbingly fair point. So what happens next week? I asked. When half the class goes to Thermox and the other half goes to Krell Prime. Where do you go? Krell Prime, Marcus said. Jungle operations. Should be interesting. Interesting. He thought the acid rain planet would be interesting. You do realize, I said, that Krell Prime has a 15% projected casualty rate. Cadets die there, regularly. Yeah, I read the briefing materials. He did not sound concerned. The acid rain is definitely going to be a challenge, and the carnivorous plants are creative. But honestly, the gravity there is lower than Earth. The oxygen levels are lower. The temperature range is narrower. Physically, it will be easier than home. I was starting to understand why Vresh had looked so satisfied during his lecture. He knew. He absolutely knew there was a human in the class, sitting right there in the front row, listening to his entire speech about how unsurvivable Earth was. That sneaky, manipulative, four-armed commander. This was a test. Not just for us, but specifically a test to see how we would react when we figured out the truth. You are going to do well on Krell Prime, are not you? I said. It was not really a question. I am certainly going to try, Marcus replied diplomatically. No, seriously, you are going to excel. While the rest of us are struggling with the acid and the plants and the heat, you are going to be completely fine. He shrugged. Maybe? I mean, I will have advantages. But that does not mean I will not take it seriously. This is still military training. People can get hurt. People from Earth send their children into your wilderness for character building, I reminded him. I think you will manage. Marcus laughed again. Okay, yeah, when you put it that way, it does sound ridiculous. But hey, want to know a secret? Sure, why not? Today has already shattered my understanding of galactic threat assessments. Might as well keep going. He leaned in conspiratorially. The first week I got here, I thought the Academy food was going to kill me. Not because it was poisonous or anything. Just because it tasted terrible. Turns out most species have way less developed taste receptors than humans. What tastes fine to you guys is basically flavorless to us. I burst out laughing. Could not help it. Here we were discussing the most dangerous planet in known space, and this human was complaining about cafeteria food. So your biggest challenge at the Academy, I said between laughs, has been the cuisine. Hey, do not underestimate the psychological impact of bad food, Marcus said, grinning. Low morale kills fighting effectiveness. He was absolutely right, which somehow made it funnier. We sat there for a few more minutes talking. Marcus told me about Earth, answering my questions with patience and humor. Yes, humans really did keep predatory animals as pets. And yes, they really did engage in activities like jumping out of aircraft for recreation. Yes, there really was a creature called a hippopotamus. And yes, they really were that dangerous. In return, I told him about my home world, Talax Prime. Peaceful, boring, with gravity at exactly galactic standard and absolutely nothing trying to eat you. He listened with genuine interest, asking questions about my culture and my reasons for joining the Academy. Eventually, we had to leave. The dinner would be starting soon, and while I had developed a healthy skepticism toward authority, I had not quite reached the point of intentionally missing meals. As we walked toward the exit, Marcus said, "Hey, Reiner, do me a favor?" Depends on the favor. Do not tell everyone about me being human just yet. Let people figure it out on their own. It is more fun that way. I looked at him, at this creature from the death world, this being who considered acid rain planets interesting and survival training easier than summer camp, and I made a decision. Deal? I said. But I get to watch when they find out. Absolutely. Front row seat. We shook on it. His grip was strong, his hand warm, his smile genuine. And that, dear listeners, is how I became friends with the most dangerous cadet at the Academy. Though I did not quite realize just how dangerous until the following week, when we deployed to Krell Prime. But that is a story for another time. Or, in about 5 minutes once I finish my meal and get comfortable. Because trust me, what happened on Krell Prime is that requires proper storytelling. And possibly alcohol. Definitely alcohol. But first, dinner. Even I have priorities. Krell Prime looked exactly like the briefing holos had promised. Which is to say, it looked like someone had taken every bad decision in planetary formation and compressed them into one spectacularly hostile ball of misery. The dropship shuddered as we entered the atmosphere, and through the viewport I could see green, endless green, stretching to every horizon. Jungle so dense you could probably walk across the canopy and never touch ground. Steam rose in thick columns from volcanic vents scattered across the landscape, and above it all, those lovely purple clouds that promised acid rain at regular intervals. Approaching landing zone Alpha, the pilot announced over the comm system. Her voice had that specific quality of someone who was extremely glad she got to stay in the ship. Estimated ground temperature, 42 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 97%. Atmospheric pressure, 1.3 standard. Good luck down there, cadets. Try not to die in embarrassing ways. Commander Vresh, who had accompanied us on this delightful field trip, stood at the front of the passenger compartment. All 4 of his arms gripped overhead supports as the ship bounced through turbulence. Listen carefully, he barked over the engine noise. You will be divided into teams of 5. Each team receives basic supplies, a comm unit, and 1 emergency beacon. Your objective is simple. Survive for 72 hours while completing navigation waypoints throughout the jungle. The teams that successfully reach all waypoints and return to the extraction site will pass. Those who fail will receive remedial training. Those who die will receive posthumous participation certificates. He paused for effect. Nobody laughed. We were all too busy trying not to vomit from the turbulence. Team assignments are displayed on your datapads. Check them now. I pulled out my pad and scrolled through the list. Team 7. Fantastic. Let me see who I would be trusting with my life for the next 3 days. Keleth the Thoran. Made sense. We had been sitting together in lectures. Strong, reliable, but nervous. Sella of Rex. Small, fast, excellent at climbing, also prone to panic, which was less ideal. Rix, a Mercian. Multiple tentacles, good problem solver, terrible at making decisions under pressure. And Marcus Webb, human. Of course. I looked up and caught Marcus's eye across the compartment. He gave me a small wave and a grin. The universal gesture for this is going to be entertaining. The dropship touched down with a bone-jarring thud that rattled my teeth. The rear hatch opened, and a wall of heat and humidity slammed into us like a physical force. The air was thick, heavy, tasted like copper and vegetation and something organic that was probably decomposing. Move out. Vresh shouted. Teams to your designated start points. Go, go, go! We poured out of the dropship like water from a broken container, each team scrambling to their assigned coordinates. The jungle noise hit me next. Screeching, howling, clicking, buzzing. Thousands of creatures making thousands of sounds, all of them vaguely threatening. Team 7 assembled at our start point, a small clearing marked by a holographic beacon. Marcus was already checking the supply pack, his movements efficient and practiced. Okay, I said, trying to sound like I had some idea what I was doing. First priority is shelter. Second is water purification. Third is planning our route to the waypoints. Agreed? Done. Agreed, Keleth rumbled. His hide had shifted to a darker color, probably trying to blend with the environment. Smart. Sella chittered nervously, her compound eyes scanning the jungle canopy. How long until the acid rain starts? I checked my datapad. Approximately 4 hours. We need to be under cover by then. I can build a shelter, Grix offered. My species has experience with rapid construction using local materials. Do it, I said. Keleth, help Grix. Sella, you and I will scout the immediate area. Make sure nothing is planning to eat us while we sleep. What about me? Marcus asked. Good question. What did you do with the human? The being from the death world who probably considered this environment mild. You are on water duty, I decided. Find us a clean source and set up purification. Marcus nodded and headed off into the jungle without hesitation. Just walked right into the dense vegetation like he was strolling through a park. Within seconds, he had disappeared from view. Should we be worried about him? Sella asked. Probably, I said. But not for the reasons you think. Come on. Let us make sure nothing is actively hunting us. Sella and I moved through the jungle in careful patterns, marking our path and checking for predator signs. The plant life on Krell Prime was aggressive. Everything had thorns, spines, or sticky surfaces. Several times we had to backtrack when we encountered plants that moved, their leaves tracking us with unsettling precision. We found tracks. Large tracks. Something with 6 legs and claws that could carve through rock. That is a Krell render, Sella whispered, her voice shaking. Apex predator. Ambush hunter. We should move the camp. The camp is already being built, I pointed out. And we do not know if moving would put us somewhere better or worse. We will set watches. Maintain awareness. By the time we returned to the clearing, Grix and Keleth had constructed a basic shelter using fallen branches and large leaves. It would not win any architecture awards, but it would keep the acid rain off us. Probably. Marcus had also returned, carrying several containers of water and what looked like an armful of plants. Water is secured, he announced cheerfully. found a stream about 200 meters north, already purified 6 liters. Also found these. He held up the plants. Those are krell spine leaves, Cadet said, his voice uncertain. They are toxic to most species. Most species, Marcus agreed. But not all. These ones are actually edible once you remove the outer membrane. High in nutrients, good energy source. Humans have a similar plant back home called aloe vera. Same basic principle. He proceeded to demonstrate, peeling back the spiny exterior to reveal a gel-like interior. Then, before any of us could stop him, he ate some. We all stared. Marcus, I said carefully, did you just eat a plant that is classified as toxic? Technically toxic to thorins, vrex, and mercians, he corrected. I checked the database. Humans can process it fine. Want to know something interesting? Your poison resistance is way lower than ours. We evolved eating all kinds of toxic stuff back home, built up serious biochemical defenses. You evolved eating poison, Sella repeated faintly. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds dramatic. But yeah, basically. Anyway, we should eat before the rain starts. I recommend using the standard rations rather than local food for you guys. Less chance of digestive issues. We ate in silence, processing this information. Marcus munched on toxic plants like they were snacks. Casual. Normal. Just another day for the human. The first drops of rain started exactly 4 hours after landing. We huddled in our shelter as the precipitation increased, going from drizzle to downpour in minutes. The rain was slightly acidic, just enough to sting exposed skin and corrode unprotected equipment. Marcus stuck his hand out, letting the rain hit his palm. He pulled it back and examined it. pH probably around 5, he said conversationally. A bit acidic. Stings a little. Nothing too bad. Your planet has acid rain? I asked. Some regions, yeah. Industrial pollution mostly. This is actually less acidic than some places I have been. Of course it was. The rain continued for 3 hours. We took the opportunity to review our route, plan our approach to the waypoints, and establish watch rotations. The noise of the rain was deafening, mixing with the jungle sounds to create a wall of audio chaos. When the rain finally stopped, the jungle was transformed. Everything gleamed wet and dangerous. Steam rose from heated surfaces. And somewhere in the distance, something roared. Deep, resonant, hungry. Right, I said. We should probably get moving. First waypoint is 5 kilometers east, through dense jungle, with predators and toxic plants, and acid rain cycles every 6 hours. Anyone want to reconsider their career choices? Nobody responded. We were all too committed at this point, or too stubborn, probably both. We moved out, Marcus taking point because he seemed to have some innate sense for navigation. The jungle was exactly as awful as promised. Dense, hot, humid, and filled with things that wanted to kill us. About 2 kilometers in, we encountered our first real threat. The krell render burst from the undergrowth with zero warning, all 6 legs churning, jaws wide enough to swallow Grick's whole. It was massive, easily 3 meters tall at the shoulder, covered in armored plates and muscle. We scattered. Pure survival instinct. Cadet went left, Grix and Sella went right. I dove behind a fallen log. Marcus did not run. He stood there, perfectly still, watching the render charge toward him. At the last possible second, he moved. Just a slight sidestep, minimal effort, and the render crashed past him into a tree with enough force to shake the canopy. The creature spun, disoriented and angry. Marcus had already moved again, circling to its flank. He picked up a rock, a large one, and with a throwing motion that suggested years of practice, he hurled it directly at the render's head. The impact was solid. The render roared and shook its head. Confused, Marcus picked up another rock. "Hey," he shouted. "Over here. Come on." Was he taunting it? He was absolutely taunting it. The render charged again. Marcus ran, not away, but perpendicular to its path, leading it in a wide circle. The creature followed, slower now, trying to track this strange bipedal thing that refused to behave like proper prey. "Reiner," Marcus yelled. "The vine on your left. Thick one. Pull it when I say." I looked. There was indeed a thick vine, wrapped around a tree, supporting what looked like a massive dead branch overhead. I understood immediately. Marcus ran beneath the branch, the render right behind him. "Now," he shouted. I pulled. Kelleth, bless his quick thinking, grabbed the vine too and pulled with me. The vine snapped, the branch fell, and 300 kilograms of dead wood crashed down on the render's back. The creature went down hard, pinned, thrashing but unable to get up. Marcus walked back to us, breathing hard but grinning. "Persistence hunting," he said between breaths. "Basic human tactic. You do not have to be faster or stronger than your prey. You just have to be smarter and more patient. Also helps to use the environment." "You could have been killed," Sella said, her voice high-pitched with stress. "Could have been," Marcus agreed. "But I was not. Now we know this area has renders. We stay alert, we move carefully, and we do not panic. Panic gets you eaten. Calm, strategic thinking keeps you alive." He said this like he was discussing weather patterns. We continued moving, and I noticed something. Marcus was not just surviving this environment, he was reading it. He pointed out tracks before I saw them, identified dangerous plants before anyone got close, heard threats approaching before they arrived. It was like watching someone in their natural element. Because I realized he was. This might be a different planet, but the fundamentals were the same. Predators, prey, survival of the adapted. And Marcus was very, very adapted. We reached the first waypoint as night fell. A small cave system that provided shelter from the elements and a defensible position. Grix and Kelleth immediately began setting up a perimeter. Sella volunteered for first watch, probably too nervous to sleep anyway. Marcus and I sat at the cave entrance, looking out at the jungle. Bioluminescent plants had started glowing as darkness descended, painting the landscape in blues and greens. It was actually beautiful, in a deadly sort of way. "You are enjoying this," I said. "Not an accusation, just an observation." "Is it that obvious?" Marcus asked. "You smiled when the render charged at you." Smiled. "Yeah." He laughed quietly. "Yeah, okay, I might be enjoying it a little." "It is just refreshing, you know? Being in an environment where the threats are honest. Nothing political, nothing complicated. Just survival. Pure and simple. Most species would find that terrifying. Most species did not evolve on Earth," he pointed out. "We are built for this. Humans are persistence hunters, problem solvers, adaptation specialists. Drop us in a hostile environment, and we do not just survive, we thrive. It is in our DNA." "What was it like?" I asked. "Growing up on Earth?" Marcus thought about that for a moment. "Normal. For me, anyway. I grew up in a place called Colorado. Mountains, forests, lots of wildlife. Learned to camp, hike, hunt, standard stuff. I did not realize how different it was until I met other species. The first time I told a glibber about mountain climbing for recreation, they looked at me like I had suggested juggling explosives. That does sound like juggling explosives. Exactly. But that is the thing about humans. We look at something dangerous and we think, how can I do that safely? Then we develop techniques, equipment, training. We do not avoid danger. We learn to manage it. A sound in the distance. Something large moving through the undergrowth. We both went silent, listening. The sound passed, moving away from our position. "So what happens after the academy?" I asked. "Where do humans go in the Galactic Defense Initiative?" "Wherever they send us," Marcus said. "Though I have heard rumors about a special operations unit forming. All human personnel. For missions that are considered too dangerous for mixed species teams." "That makes sense. Send the Deathworlders to do the Deathworld jobs." "Pretty much. Though I think the official term is high-risk environment specialists. Sounds better on the recruitment posters. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the jungle breathe and shift in the darkness. The second acid rain cycle started, softer this time, more mist than precipitation. The sound was almost soothing. "Thank you," Marcus said suddenly. "For what?" "For not treating me like I am fragile or dangerous. A lot of species do one or the other when they find out I am human. You just treat me like another cadet." "You are another cadet," I said. "Just one who happens to be incredibly difficult to kill. But hey, everyone has their strengths." He smiled at that. "True. What is your strength, Reiner?" "Sarcasm," I said immediately. "And moderate competence at not dying. Important skills." "I think so." The next 2 days followed a similar pattern. We navigated through the jungle, Marcus casually excelling at everything while the rest of us struggled to keep up. He found food where we saw poison. He found paths where we saw obstacles. He treated predators like minor inconveniences rather than mortal threats. At one point we encountered a swarm of krell stingers, insect analogues the size of my fist with neurotoxin injectors. They descended on us in a buzzing cloud. We scattered, swatting and running. Marcus stood still, breathing slowly through his nose, barely moving. The insects swarmed around him but did not attack. Afterward, he explained that the stingers hunted by detecting carbon dioxide and rapid movement. By controlling his breathing and staying calm, he had made himself a less appealing target. "You learned that how?" Grix asked, multiple tentacles still twitching nervously. "We have similar insects on Earth," Marcus said. "Mosquitoes, hornets, wasps. You learn to deal with them, or you spend your whole life getting stung." By day 3, the rest of the team had largely given up trying to understand human capabilities and had just accepted that Marcus operated on different rules. When he climbed a 50-meter tree in under 2 minutes to scout our path, nobody questioned it. When he carried Sella across a ravine because her climbing limbs were injured, nobody expressed surprise. When he spent an hour teaching Kelith how to identify safe drinking water using just visual cues, we all took notes. The final waypoint was at the top of a volcanic ridge, requiring a steep climb through unstable terrain during an acid rain cycle. The conditions were appalling. Hot, wet, slippery, with loose rocks and toxic steam vents scattered throughout. Marcus went first, testing handholds and establishing the safest path. Then he came back down, helped each of us up one at a time, and finally climbed up himself with our full supply pack because redistributing weight made the climb safer for everyone else. At the top, breathing hard and covered in mud and rain, we activated the final waypoint beacon. A holographic marker appeared, confirming our success. Team 7, all waypoints completed, I transmitted back to base. "Ready for extraction." Acknowledged, came the reply. "Extraction team en route. Yetia 40 minutes. Congratulations on not dying, Team 7. We collapsed in a small cave near the summit, exhausted and filthy but alive. All 5 of us. 0 casualties. Considering the 15% expected casualty rate, that was actually impressive. "We did it," Sella said, disbelief clear in her voice. "We actually did it." "Of course we did," Marcus said, wringing water from his uniform. "We worked together, stayed smart, did not panic. Basic stuff." "Basic," Kelith echoed, a laugh in his voice. "Right. Basic. You know what this means?" Grix said, tentacles coiling in what I recognized as murky excitement. "We are officially certified for hostile environment operations. They cannot put us on desk duty after this." "Do not jinx it," I warned. "The universe is listening and it has a terrible sense of humor." The extraction ship arrived exactly on schedule, descending through the rain to hover above our position. We climbed aboard, muddy and exhausted but triumphant. Commander Vresh was waiting in the passenger compartment, all 4 arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Report," he demanded. "All waypoints reached, sir," I said, standing at attention despite every muscle screaming in protest. 0 casualties, minimal injuries, objectives completed ahead of schedule. Fresh's mandibles twitched. Ahead of schedule. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He looked at each of us, his gaze lingering on Marcus for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Acceptable performance, Team 7. Debriefing tomorrow at 0900. Dismissed. We found seats and strapped in as the ship lifted off. Through the viewport, I watched Krell Prime shrink below us, that beautiful, terrible jungle planet that had tried very hard to kill us and failed. Hey, Reiner, Marcus said quietly. Remember our deal? About people figuring out I am human on their own? Yeah. I think word might spread after this. I looked around the passenger compartment. Other teams were boarding now, and I could see the differences. Injured cadets. Exhausted faces. One team was short 2 members, and nobody was talking about where they went. And then there was Team 7. Tired, sure. Dirty, absolutely. But whole. Functional. Successful. Yeah, I agreed. I think you might be right. Marcus grinned. Good. Let them figure it out. Let them wonder how the team with the human not only survived but excelled. Maybe they will stop thinking of Earth as just a death world and start thinking about what kind of people a death world produces. Terrifying people, I said. Capable people, he corrected. There is a difference. Maybe there was. Or maybe they were the same thing, just viewed from different angles. The ship broke atmosphere, leaving Krell Prime behind. Above us, the stars appeared, brilliant and endless. Somewhere out there was Earth, the planet that had been declared too dangerous for training. The world that produced beings like Marcus, who looked at acid rain and apex predators and said, well, this is interesting. I had spent my whole life thinking of space as the frontier, the dangerous unknown where only the brave ventured. But maybe I had it backward. Maybe the real frontier was not space at all. Maybe it was Earth. And maybe, just maybe, humans were not the ones who needed to be careful when they left their planet. Maybe we were the ones who needed to be careful about what happened when they left. Because if Marcus Webb was average, if this was normal human capability, then the galaxy had seriously underestimated what Deathworlders could do. And that thought, that realization, was both terrifying and exciting in equal measure. The dropship docked with the Academy station, and we filed out, heading toward medical checkup and decontamination. In the corridor, I saw other cadets staring at Team 7, whispers starting already. How did they all make it back? Did you see that human? He is not even limping. I heard they finished early. Early. On Krell Prime. Marcus caught my eye and winked. The secret was out now, spreading through the Academy like wildfire. The human who made hostile environments look easy. The cadet from the death world who turned survival training into a casual field trip. Commander Vresh was going to have an interesting time with his next lecture about unsurvivable planets. And me. I had the best story of my Academy career. The story of how I survived Krell Prime with a human, learned that Deathworlders were not just dangerous to their enemies, and discovered that sometimes the scariest thing in the jungle is not the predators. It is the apex predator that walks on 2 legs, tells jokes about toxic plants, and considers acid rain a minor inconvenience. It is the human. And they claimed no cadet could survive Earth. They never mentioned that humans could survive anywhere.